Ba-da-ba. Welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. It is wonderful to have you along for the ride. Look, we got a one-subject show pretty much. I'll literally just touch on a couple of things, but Brandon Graham retiring, it was an absolute incredible. This is allergies. This isn't me tearing up about Brandon Graham, I promise. But watching him yesterday not be able to get through the first 3 seconds of his retirement speech. He is a guy that I've covered high school sports in my early days, and you have that kind of access and you have that kind of rapport with kids. And this is what I was thinking about because I did an instant reaction show. And after that, I was thinking about the relationship the city of Philadelphia has with Brandon Graham. And often I talk about a lot of cities, most cities, kind of has a relationship with athletes that they love, and even just teams in general in their cities as if they're extensions of their family. And I don't normally get that sense with Philadelphia. I always get the sense in Philadelphia that athletes in this city, we look at them more as representatives of our city. Like, we want you to work hard. We want you to show people that Philadelphia is, a bunch of tough people and all that stuff. Lunch pail to work and all those cliches. I always make the comparison with Baltimore, where my mom's from. Like, they always look at their teams as if they're extensions of their family. Like, oh, we should have the Ripkins over for dinner. Like, that kind of mentality, right? Brandon Graham isn't a guy that, certainly we look at him as a guy that would be a great representative and is a great representative of the city of Philadelphia. But I think most people also look at him in that rare air of an extension of our family. Because who wouldn't want to have Brandon Graham seated at your dinner table smiling? Like, everyone feels like, even if you haven't met him, you feel like you know Brandon Graham. And covering him was a lot like covering high school athletes, where you just felt like you had that access. You felt like you knew the family. You were talking to someone who ultimately loved the game as if he was still a kid. And here he is 2 weeks shy of his 37th birthday, retiring after 15 seasons and the most games ever played as a Philadelphia Eagle. Oh, yeah, and 2 Super Bowl championships. And I absolutely loved that the Lombardi trophies were bookending him at his press conference as he announced his retirement yesterday. He, throughout the entire speech, he referenced one thing that just really blew my mind. And it was one of those things that, it's certainly something that but it's like, it really doesn't hit you until you hear him say it. And he talked about his first 7 years in the league. From the time he was drafted to the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, it was 7 years. That feels like a blink of an eye, more so than what it actually was. The 7 years he talked about from the time he was drafted, we were coming out of the McNabb era. We were starting what was supposed to be the Kevin Kolb era. Brandon Graham's first game as an Eagle is the Eagles in Kelly Green losing to the Green Bay Packers in a game that Kevin Kolb was knocked to the ground, concussed, had the grass stuck to his helmet, his face mask. Michael Vick comes into the game, and Michael Vick ends up being an MVP candidate that year. That's 2010. That's the first year of Brandon Graham as a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. Just think about those 7 years. You went from the Kevin Kolb tease to Michael Vick to Reed being out, Chip being in, Chip being out, trading Nick Foles after his incredible run. You had all these things go on in just the 6 years leading up to the Super Bowl season. That in itself was Doug Peterson comes in. Like, that in itself it felt like 3 lifetimes. And when he said yesterday, it took 7 years to get to the Super Bowl, I'm like, oh my God, it was only 7. It feels like it was 20 years between the time Brandon Graham was drafted and the time the Eagles just won their first Super Bowl. But when he said that, I was like, this guy, Brandon Graham, has been here through it all. He has been here through so much in just those 7 years. It was 15 years. And I'm thinking, what were you doing 15 years ago? Like, think about that. The Brandon Graham era in Philadelphia. I mean, there are kids that are becoming fans here that don't know the Eagles without Brandon Graham playing. And then I go through not just what the Eagles have gone through in his time here, but I also think about obviously the most successful era, the Super Bowl era, the Philadelphia Eagles teams is the 15 years that Brandon Graham was here. I think about the Eagles becoming a winning franchise, ending a season as a winning franchise. I think about the personal journey for Brandon Graham and how I've used Brandon Graham's model for a lot of athletes that come through Philadelphia. Guys that have early reputations of being busts and whether or not they could turn it around. And one of the things I always respected about Brandon Graham was that he owned it. He would do interviews in his first 3 years, including the second year where he was injured. And he'd talk about how right now I'm a bust. Right now would always be the word he'd say. Right now I'm a bust. Right now I'm a bust. Well, he's not a bust anymore. And I know that I think about the night he was drafted. I remember I was on the air at WIP that night, and I remember desperately wanting the Eagles to find, that next Brian Dawkins, like most people. And Earl Thomas was right there on the board. And when the Eagles got their pick, I was like, here we go. Earl Thomas, baby. He's going to be an Eagle. Brandon, what? When Brandon Graham was just starting to get his legs under him in his fourth year, his NFL career, Earl Thomas was winning his Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks. And then I was like, Brandon Graham's going to have an even taller hill to climb. And he climbed it. He really climbed it. And he just worked his ass off. And as we learned yesterday, his wife is the one that was behind the scenes pushing him. He didn't even want to leave his house with that label of bust on him. And I remember towards the end of the negative days and the start of the great days in Philadelphia, which was 2016 and then going into 2017, I did an event with Brandon Graham. And he even talked about this in his speech yesterday. He said he went through a blocking tirade on social media. And I remember hosting an event with Brandon Graham, and I've hosted a couple with him. And I remember I had met him a couple times, interviewed him a couple times, been part of media sessions a number of times with him in the locker room and all that stuff. And I mean, I wouldn't say we were like friends or anything like that. A decent rapport, I think, would be it. Enough to where when I saw him at the event, he was like, oh, hey, and threw a hug on me and all that stuff. And we broed out for 2 hours. We broed out, did an interview, did things with the fans and all that stuff. And I was like, hey, man, I got to get you on the show sometime. He's like, oh, absolutely, hit me up. And I was like, you got it. So I go to hit him up, the old DMs, right? And I'm like, after this bro session I had with Brandon Graham, I was one of the people he blocked. And I'm like, what did I do? I didn't even do anything. And then later on, I was like, hey, you blocked me, right? And he's like, oh, did I? I blocked everybody, And then he unblocked me. And I was like, cool. We cool now. But like, he went through that whole tirade and then took it all back. I don't blame him. He was blocking out the negativity. And he listened to his wife. He got out there. He kept working. Turns out Jim Schwartz had a huge part in almost his resurgence, if you will, and shouted out Coach Jim Schwartz yesterday during the speech, and went on to have one of the most successful careers and one of the most impactful careers in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles. We had him on the show maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And you're already talking about a 32-year-old at that point. The retirement isn't out of the question. He'd already won a Super Bowl. And I said to him, when it creeps into your head about what you want to do after, what is it? And he said, well, whatever it is, it's going to be on my own terms. I want to go out on a high note. And throughout the season, even after the injury in LA against the Rams, as the team kept winning and Nolan Smith kept producing, I was thinking about this team being in the Super Bowl, and the rumors were starting to circulate about whether or not Brandon Graham would be back. Oh, could he be back for the Super Bowl? If the Eagles have a Super Bowl run, would Brandon Graham come back? And then when he came back, I was thinking about what he said on this show, which was, I want to go out on my own terms, doing something great. And I can't think about anything better, greater than going out after coming back. First off, playing as phenomenally well as he did for the first 12 games of the season. And then unfortunately getting injured. And then coming back to win a Super Bowl, his second with the Eagles. That is, is there a better way to go out? Nope. Maybe he doesn't tear his triceps again? I don't know. But he fought through it. And all the while, being in that locker room, have an impact on that locker room, motivating the young players, being in their ear, and then actually getting to go out there and play. And not just practice, not just give it a go, but actually go out there and play in the Super Bowl and win. Absolutely incredible. Think about 15 years ago, that guy walking into the NovaCare complex, and 15 years later, coming out as a two-time Super Bowl champion. It is an absolutely incredible career. Talk about impactful Eagles, talk about influential Eagles. There's not one person, not one Eagles fan that if Brandon Graham walks in the room, they're not lighting up like a Christmas tree. That's the rare occasion of feeling like he's a family member more so than just a representative of your city. And the fact that he was here for every year of his career, the fact that he got to go out, not just as a champion, but as an Eagle for all 15 years of his career is something special. Talked about setting an example for his kids. I mean, what's better than that? And yesterday, it was no surprise, as an emotional man as he has been in his time here in Philadelphia, he opened things up and could barely get the words out.
I just want to say thank you to everybody already. But y'all know I gave everything I had in this. And I don't have no regrets. That's one thing I tell them young boys. I don't have no regrets. And so first I just want to say 15 years ago, I walked into this city as a young man with dreams, big dreams, a little bit of nervousness, and a whole lot of fire in my heart. I had no idea back then what this journey would bring. I didn't know how many times I would be tested. I didn't know how much I would grow. And I surely didn't know how deeply I would fall in love with these fans and the team in this city.
Man. You think about the beginning. Just think about him walking into that building for the first time. Everyone just being pissed he wasn't Earl Thomas. Him taking 3 years to get through all that and then started to produce. And all the while, he credited his wife with all of it. He also started talking a little bit about how he was a wild man and needed his wife to calm down a little bit. I was like, well, give me a little bit more on that, BG. But he didn't. But the focus, the dedication, the work ethic, his wife literally telling him, do something about it. If you don't like being a bust, do something about it. And boy, did he do something about it. One thing that I really found interesting during the Q&A session, he was asked where he gets his positive outlook on things from. And he says his mom. His mom is the one that put that positive outlook in him. That makes him focus on the brighter side of things, the positive side of things, not focusing on the negative. Because they will just get lost in the negative. Some people might be motivated by the negative. Other people get distracted by it. And he credited his mom with keeping that positive attitude. The first question from the media was from Merrill Reese. It's just good to hear that voice, always. And Merrill says, when did you know you were going to become one of the most beloved Eagles of all time? And this is what was so wild. BG going into this season, if you remember, at the end of last year, this wasn't media. This was Brandon Graham. Brandon Graham said that, yeah, he's going to come back maybe for one more year, try to work it out with Howie, and maybe a farewell tour. Usually a little odd to hear from an athlete, but it's BG, and you're like, all right, let's see what happens here. And not only did he just have a farewell tour, but as Vic Fangio put it, yeah, he ain't on a farewell tour. He's gonna play. And boy, did he. I mean, you can talk about, sack numbers all you want, but you talk about getting into the backfield, disrupting things, making tackles, making plays. Brandon Graham was playing at 36 years old. Again, 2 weeks, it's his 37th birthday, folks. This season, he was playing some of the best football of his career. People were talking about Lane Johnson right now signing this contract extension, saying, oh, he's still playing great. No signs of slowing down. And they're right. Well, BG, I mean, yes, torn triceps kind of look like slowed out a little bit, but overall, before the injury, holy pots and pans, this guy was playing at a high level. Some of the best football we've seen him play. Finally got a double-digit sack season, 3 years ago? That's not supposed to, you're supposed to have a career year at 33? It's insane. And then he comes in here under Vic Fangio, and you see him playing at an extremely high level. Vic Fangio is saying, forget that retirement tour. Yeah, you're playing. And boy, did he. And then being there for a guy like Nolan Smith, motivating guys like Nolan Smith, motivating guys like Jalix Hunt, staying as a leader in the locker room throughout the entire process. And yeah, even this year when he made a mistake on Mike, he corrected it. He did what he could to correct it. And overall, I love the idea that he's really not going to be going anywhere as far as being influential and having an impact in that locker room. But he said, back to Merrill's question, when he said, when did you know that you were going to be one of the most beloved Eagles of all time? He said, going into this season, when I had mentioned that it was going to be the end, most likely, farewell tour, one more year and all that, he started to hear conversations and started to get more and more questions from him and started to see more of him in sort of a retrospective on TV and throughout the media, digital and linear. And he was thinking about, oh, wow, it's the end. And this is how people are remembering me. This is how people are already talking about my impact in Philadelphia. And with all the outpouring of love that he got, and I'm sure when he went down with injury, all the support he got from the fan base, all that jumped to the forefront of his mind saying, oh, wow, this is the impact I've had on people, and this is people showing their gratitude towards me. I remember years ago listening to a player retire, and he was talking about this is like, he was asked about the outreaching of fans, and his reaction to it was, usually people wait a long time, like when you die, to say all these nice things about you. But when you retire after a nice career in the NFL, people essentially eulogize you. And it's like, wow, this is how people really felt? Well, you get to experience it as opposed to die. Like, that's a beautiful thing. And you get a sense of, this is the way I have impacted people's lives. Not just with winning, but the way I've carried myself and the way I've been a leader. And that's the sense I got from Brandon Graham yesterday when he was talking about how it really was hitting him going into this year, that he was as appreciated as he is. I of course, think back to to Jason Kelce's speech last year. Think back to Brandon Graham's. And I think about, or fast forward to Brandon Graham's, and I think about how every athlete that comes to the city of Philadelphia needs to watch these press conferences. This is mandatory viewing for any athlete that comes into Philadelphia, especially when you're talking about a 6th-round pick in Jason Kelce, and you're talking about a 13th overall pick at the defensive end position, a position that you just had a lot of success with Trent Cole, a position you had a lot of success with Hugh Douglas. And he's coming in here and he's going to be taking that over. And not only did he take it over, but he had the bumps in the road, certainly in the beginning of it, and turned that around in, again, I'm going to say only 7 years. I mean, he's really turned it around after 3, where you started to see the build for him. You started to see the impact on the field for him. But really, in those 7 years, you talk about a full turnaround to be a Super Bowl champion. Again, I say only 7 years. Felt like a lot longer than that. The trash talk. We'll all miss the trash talk. I know he said he's going to send his goons in for the upcoming season and beyond. We're lucky I'm not playing, but Nolan Smith's going to go out there and he's going to... Lane Johnson has told stories about Brandon Graham talking trash to other defensive ends about how Lane is going to stop him and jack him up and all that stuff. And Lane's like, could you stop revving up these players, please? I don't need them any more motivated going into this. And one of my favorite clips ever, there's 2 that really jump out to me when it comes to the trash talk of Brandon Graham. And I don't even remember the team that they were playing because the Eagles were just rolling everybody the year leading up to the Super Bowl. Actually, no, it was the year after the Super Bowl. And the chicken sandwich craze was going on in America. And Brandon Graham was just referring to quarterbacks as chicken sandwiches and saying, I'm going to get my chicken sandwich. I'm going to get my chicken sandwich. I'm coming after you, chicken sandwich. And that's hilarious. And then the year they were going to the Super Bowl, I think it was the year they were going to the Super Bowl, the first one, they played San Francisco in San Francisco, and BG apparently was on one more so than BG was ever on one, and was just kept talking. San Francisco breaks their huddle, starts coming in the line of scrimmage. BG's still talking, and Fletcher Cox has to turn to him and go, all right, lock it up now. Lock it up. And BG goes, okay. Like mid-sentence, he's like, I'm coming after you. God, who was there blanking on the quarterback's name? It was one of the back. Gabbert, was it Blaine Gabbert? No, I don't remember. I can't remember the guy's name. He was a journeyman. And Fletcher Cox just mid-sentence goes, all right, lock it up. And BG just goes, all right. He's laughing. Yeah, I'll miss that. And I know Nolan Smith gets comparisons all the time to Brandon Graham. But hopefully an even more successful career. He's already got one Super Bowl in his back pocket. Let's keep going for it. And then the play of plays. I was in Minnesota, and I'll never forget Patriots having the ball, trailing, and I remember thinking in the moment, I'm on the production truck with NBC, sitting in my spot, and I'll never forget thinking all year long when the Eagles needed a stop or a turnover, this defense in crunch time has come up and gotten that turnover. And I remember Brandon Graham breaking through the line of scrimmage. I'm like, he's closing on Tom Brady quick. And then, damn, knocking that ball out of Tom Brady's hands. And Derek Barnett falling on that football. And the Eagles give the ball to the Patriots one more time. And Brady throws the Hail Mary that hits the ground. And that was it. Eagles win the Super Bowl. Brandon Graham makes a game-clinching play, in essence. Zach Ertz got the game-winning touchdown. Brandon Graham, I think, made the game-winning play. And if there had to be one player on that defense to make that play, there is nobody I'd rather have make that play than Brandon Graham. And for now, the rest of eternity, Tom Brady has to look under his bed for not only Nick Foles, but for also Brandon Graham. And I loved that this year when Tom Brady was back in Philadelphia doing a game for Fox, Brandon Graham snuck up behind him. Scared the hell out of him. One of the most, you look at that Super Bowl, the first Super Bowl, not only was it the first Super Bowl you won, but the way you won it with the Philly special and Brandon Graham's strip sack of Tom Brady. Absolutely incredible. I think I've told you guys this before, where I was on the truck there. I'm a Philadelphia area guy. To my right, up on the truck on the other row was a guy named Kevin Brown, who's also a Philly guy. And then there's another guy, Jake Somerville, who's down the other side of the truck through a doorway. So we had almost like a Philadelphia triangle. And anytime something huge happened, it was just like, oh, and then back to work. This shit work out. And I'll never forget, Brandon Graham makes two plays that had happened. Both, I just mentioned them. One was Philly special. Kevin looked at me. I looked at Kevin. I looked at Jake. Jake looked at me. I looked at Kevin. And just where you just couldn't control the fanness for a little pulse of like, get back to work. It was unreal. But BG is a huge part of that. And to see him fight back, come back for it, absolutely amazing. To see a guy like that, 15 years, most games as an Eagle, finished 4th on the Eagles' all-time sack list. See if I can get it. Reggie White, Trent Cole, Clyde Simmons. Someone else am I missing here? Because BG has a half sack more than – there's one more person I'm missing. But, yeah, 4th on the all-time sack list there for the Eagles. That's pretty impressive. nice. That's a nice run. One of the messages he gave all young players was to attack adversity during his speech yesterday. Attack adversity. That's what made him a better player, was being able to go through that adversity. Don't shy away from it. Go after it. And if anyone wants to label you a bust, well, that's your adversity, and push through it. And then one of the more important things that, again, I want to play for every single athlete that comes through Philadelphia. That was his overall message to the city of Philadelphia.
And finally, to Philadelphia. We didn't start so tight, as you know. You made me work for this, and I appreciate you for that. Through the struggles, the injuries, and the moment where I had to prove myself over and over again, you never let me get comfortable. You held me accountable. You kept that chip on my shoulder. You pushed me to be better, and when the time came, we celebrated together 2 times. This city is built on hard work, resilience, and unmatched passion. And you bring the same energy to every game, every moment, every season. Your loyalty, your fire, and your unwavering support mean everything to me and this organization. Philly doesn't just support its team, it lives for them. And I see it, and I feel it, and I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for being the heartbeat of this city.
Not bad for fans that get a horrible reputation on the national stage, just to say that. And this is also coming from a guy that got the hate. I find it really interesting because recently, and I know Ben Simmons wasn't on your bingo card today, but Ben Simmons, after his time here in Philadelphia, admitted publicly that he took Philly fans for granted. And he, should have loved up on the Philly fans a little bit more. Another guy that was labeled a bust, Markelle Fultz, after his time here in Philadelphia, talked about how great the Philly fans were. These are guys that did not get great reputations, especially on the way out when it came to Ben Simmons. There was moments there where he was loved, but not panning out to what we thought it would pan out to. Brandon Graham made it through the muck, and man, did he make it out to the other side, and became one of the most beloved athletes, not just with the Eagles, but ever in Philadelphia, across the board in the world of sports. One of the most loved Philadelphians ever. Jeffrey Lurie, in his letter that he released during the press conference yesterday, that was posted on the social media, the Eagles' social media, was that Brandon Graham is everything you want in an Eagle and a person. And yeah, it's the old cliche of like, give me 22 Brandon Grahams. That's who you want. That's the type of mentality. That's the type of personality that you want playing football for your organization. That's the type of personality you want in any athlete to play for your team in any city. Like, the world would be a better place if everyone was Brandon Graham. Like it's like one of those deals. If everyone had that same type of mindset and personality, oh my God, how warm would this planet be? It'd be amazing. Like the news would just be, puppy dogs. A puppy dog who took a walk today. Look, here's video of it for 29 minutes. Like that would be the Brandon Graham world. I've told this story as well before, but it's worth telling again because I was really reminded of it yesterday. Because he started his press conference, and this is one of the most amazing things about it. A lot of the media members, and this isn't like throwing shade on anybody in the media, because I wanted Earl Thomas too, okay, folks? But especially for the first 3 years where Earl Thomas is looking like, oh, look, an all-pro. Oh, 4 years, Super Bowl champion. What are we doing here in Philly? But a lot of the people that criticized him, did he block him on social media? Yeah. But a lot of people that criticized him were there at the press conference yesterday. And what was he doing? He was throwing bro hugs on all of them. He walked through the media and hugged everybody. Side note, great to see Jalen Hurts there. Great to see Lane Johnson there. Great to see Fletcher Cox come back for it. That was great. I saw the picture that Lane Johnson posted with Fletcher Cox and BG. And himself, obviously. And he was like, I got you, bros. Like, hey, I'll carry the torch. It's just on me now. But Brandon Graham walked through the media and hugged everybody, and it made me think about the year after the Super Bowl when the Eagles were playing in the playoffs after the double doink in Chicago. They went to New Orleans to play the Saints, and the Eagles are driving, and I have no doubt that this was going to be the game-winning drive, and Nick Foles hit Alshon Jeffrey right in the hands, and the ball went through Alshon's hands, and that was it for the Eagles, and that was supposed to be it for Brandon Graham and his career in Philadelphia. It was last year of his deal. What was the future going to hold for Brandon Graham? And he walked off the field, and right there was his guy, Derek Gunn. And Derek Gunn and him embraced, and BG just wouldn't let go. Just wouldn't let go. And then I remember in clean-out day, I think it was the next day, going to the locker room, having the regular media session in the locker room, talking to everybody about the end of the season. And then on the way out, Brandon Graham is standing at the door, not to the locker room, but outside the wing of the NovaCare complex that has the locker room. Basically the door that leads the media back into like their desks and media area. And he's standing there at the door, holding the door for the media. And I mean everyone. And as he's holding the door, he's got his foot holding the door open. He is throwing bro hugs on everyone as they left. And I remember talking to some, now I don't consider myself a journalist. I never have. I consider that to be more of the beat reporter role. And here, I remember hearing some of the media guys talk about it, saying, what about, I felt bad, like objectivity, like don't be close with one of the subjects, that's a little too intimate, And then everyone was like, no, it's Brandon Graham. Like, that's fine. Like, Brandon Graham's the exception. If it was going to be with anybody, it was going to be with somebody that had already been with the league or been with the team at that point, I guess, 5 years. No, I'm sorry. Still had 5 years left. So he'd been with the team 11 years, over a decade. So it was okay. And I'll never forget that because I had the same thought then that I did yesterday, which was these are the people that didn't want Brandon Graham here. These are the people that were labeling Brandon Graham, and I'm including myself with these people, as a bust. And here is Brandon Graham rising above it, not only to become a better person, but a better player, and rising above it to embrace the people that once criticized him and now have owned it, saying that, oh, no, not even close to a bust. And 15 years of success in Philadelphia, 15 years of transition in Philadelphia. That's what goes through my head when I think about Brandon Graham. And then ultimately, two parades that he had a big hand in providing in Philadelphia. Certainly the end of an era in Philly. The Brandon Grahamless Eagles. I forget who it was yesterday. I think in our chat referenced Uche is here. Nolan Smith obviously is here. Jalix Hunt is here. Ojulari is back or is here. Eagles seem to be pretty set at edge rusher now. You're not playing. Oh, the other thing somebody pointed out to me after the show, Azeez Ojulari is coming off injuries, a lot of injuries there in New York. Well, everyone's injured on that football field in New York. North Jersey, excuse me. So hopefully it's a different story here in Philly. All right, don't give me reason to believe. Mekhi Becton, he was pretty damn good. Saquon Barkley was pretty damn good. Hopefully it's the same with Azeez Ojulari as the edge. But the Eagles seem pretty set right now at edge, and I'm sure they'll add to it in the draft. The number one thing for me is still looking at defensive tackles and who can come in here and help take this or keep this defensive line playing at the level of consistency that they played last year. But the writing was kind of on the wall that BG was going to be done. There was some hope that maybe playing at the high level that he was playing at 36 years old, that maybe he could continue that 37. But I think 15 years is a pretty great run. Not a lot to question for BG. So go ahead in the comments before I get to the chat check. Go ahead in the comments. Let me know your favorite Brandon Graham moment. If there was something in the speech yesterday that stuck out to you, I'd love to hear it. I played for you what really stuck out to me and talked about what really stuck out to me through yesterday. Also, I'll say it again. Love that Jalen Hurts was there. Love that Jalen Hurts was there. That was pure class. Pure class. Pure class for Fletcher Cox to be there, for Lane Johnson to be there. That was pretty great. For those guys that the Eagles to have it set up so that you could take so those guys take pictures together for the photo up there. That was pretty special. Phillies played yesterday. Christopher Sanchez, 5 scoreless innings. Not a bad day for him. Nick Castellanos hit a home run. We are getting closer and closer to opening day. Can't wait. Brooklyn Nets played last night. They lost, so they get a little bit more of an advantage on the Sixers there as to being one of the 5 worst teams in the NBA. Sixers are at it tonight against the Oklahoma City Thunder at 8 o'clock. And I'll be on WBCB radio today. A little the return to radio, my second time back on the radio in a long time. And it'll be on Merrill Reese's radio station, WBCB. Also on YouTube. I'll share the link. And I'll be with Bernie Perrant. We're going to do an hour-long hockey show from Chickies and Pete's in Northeast Philadelphia from 6 to 7. So that's where I'll be before my Sixer responsibilities tonight. So I look forward to hanging out with Bernie Perrant. Talk to Bernie tonight. Can't wait to that. Always have a great time around Bernie. Yeah, that's what I got for you. Hey, let me tell you about the amazing people at the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use promo code Farzy and get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. Want to go to the game, the concert, the comedy show? Game Time app has you covered for it all. And let's not forget about the Game Time guarantee. If you find tickets on a different website, different app for less money, Game Time will get you back at 110% of the difference. That's a Game Time guarantee. And also, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with the Game Time app. You can view your seat before you buy it on the Game Time app. So again, you take the guesswork out of buying tickets. So game, concert, comedy show, Game Time app has you covered. And make sure you use promo code Farzy for $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. Game Time. What time is it? Game Time. Terms apply. How about PHL Sports Nation, Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's phlsportsnation.com. How about Brett over at Sky Motorcars, skymotorcars.com. Check out Brett's amazing inventory at skymotorcars.com. Let's get into the chat check and see how you wonderful people are doing on this fine. It's Wednesday already. Hump day, everybody. April, good morning. April says BG went out on top and he deserves it. Absolutely. Danny, hello. Sean Kilray, what's going on? Oh, wow. Sean Couturier. Just a tidbit, Farzy. Sean Couturier, now the longest tenured athlete in Philadelphia, September 21st, 2011, following Brandon Graham's official retirement. Sean Couturier is one of those guys that I talk about time and sense of time being two totally different things. Like Brandon Graham saying 2010 to 2017, 7 years. That feels like 40. Sean Couturier is just one of those guys. I don't even know how old he is now, but just always seems like a kid to me. April, 15 years ago, I had a newborn. That's exactly what you jump to. If you have kids, you jump, wow, I didn't even have kids then. I'd sleep in past 11 a.m. Yeah, those are the days. Sean Kilrain, for me, it's the sack. It'll be forever entrenched in Philadelphia Eagles history. The smiling assassin. Doggone it. Sean Gillespie, good morning. Sean Gillespie, another legend gone. The great BG will be greatly missed and remembered. That Brady stop. It was a thing of beauty. '10, Flyers went to the Cup. 2010, the Sixers had yet to process anything. 2010, that was Evan Turner was drafted. I think that was the 2010. 2010, Evan Turner was drafted. Good God. Flyers go to the Cup. Evan Turner gets drafted second overall by the Sixers. 2010 would have been the Phillies. One of their playoff losses. Was that? Was that San Francisco? Or is that Cincinnati Reds? No, San Francisco Giants. Wow, 2010 was the beginning of the end for Ryan Howard. Yeah, that was the year Ryan Howard hit 276, 108 RBIs, 31 home runs. It was the second to last time he'd have a 30 home run season. That's insane. And that was the beginning end for Ryan Howard. And I think that was the last time the Phillies. Was that the beginning? No, they made it in 20. Yeah, because they had the 100 and. Yeah, the next year was a 102 win season. But Ryan Howard wasn't the same. Wow. Geez, what an era. 15 years of Philadelphia sports. Brandon Graham was here for it all, winning 2 championships. Not too bad. Sean Kilroy, definitely going to miss the trash talking that he gave every Sunday. Absolutely. Remember when everyone wanted Earl Thomas and not BG? Yeah. I mean, let that sink in for everyone. Thanks for everything you did. Let that sink in. Yeah, like, in all honesty, though, Earl Thomas, you're talking about, what, a all-time all-pro? I mean, when it comes to that's why I talk about impact of Brandon Graham. Like, I don't want to do that show today, like the Earl Thomas, Brandon Graham show, because I want to focus on everything that was great about Brandon Graham. But, yeah, I mean, people were really vocal about it. I know I was that night. He was right there. And look, BG ended up – it's one thing to measure talent. It's another thing to measure impact on a team. And Earl Thomas joined up with one of the greatest defenses of all time. And certainly they had a great run as well. But when you talk about overall career, yeah, I'll take 2 Super Bowl championships as opposed to 1. And then I'll also talk about overall leadership in the locker room. And that's certainly what Brandon Graham brought here in Philadelphia as well. And then just a beloved figure. Wine Niners Wine, good morning. Howie Roseman 101. Brandon will always be an Eagle. Just wonder where he fits in. Maybe Dom's new intern. I could oh, man. That's such a great idea. Wine Niners Wine. All right. Buddy cop movie. Good cop, Brandon Graham. Bad cop, Dom DeSandro. Good cop, bad cop, buddy cop movie. Brandon Graham, Dom DeSandro. Let's pitch it to Jeffrey Lurie. He's a movie producer. That would be a great movie. John Gillespie, damn, 15 years ago, had hair and a beard, living in a mouse-infested apartment. Now I'm bald. Still in the mouse-infested apartment, Sean? Who did I leave out? Yeah, Brandon Graham is third, right? Oh, so he's third on the all-time list. Okay, he is third on the all-time list. All right, thank you. I wasn't missing anybody. Reggie White. Yeah, Reggie White's on your team. You're not number 1 in sacks then. Trent Cole, 95.5. Wine Niners Wine, thank you. Graham, 76.5. Simmons at 76. Cox, 70. Sean Kilroy, love the end of the chapter at the Rocky statue with laying his 55 jersey down and throwing his cleats on the shoulder of the statue. Farzad, I did see that. That was great. Don't get me wrong, I love Rocky. Sometimes I think it's a little too cliche and overplayed, but that was totally appropriate. BG, that did not hit me with the ick at all. I thought that was awesome. Wine Niners Wine Graham, 206 games. Kelsey, 193. Cox and Akers, 188. Dawkins, 183. That Dawkins era ending, that was one that really kicked you. Sean Kilrain, right there with you, Farzy, wanting Earl Thomas instead of BG. I think we were all guilty. I don't know anyone. There's one person I won't mention, but I don't want to throw shade on him. But I remember that night, one person being like, no, you take the guy you want, you take the guy you want. You always go with the line over the secondary. I'm like, not in the first round of the draft, bub. Take the most impactful player. Wayne the Pain, what's going on? James Jones, BG. He gave you good memories. Damn right he did. Skirtle, what's going on? Good morning. April, loved his speech. He had a great career and deserves all the love. Absolutely. Yeah, Jeremy Von Scriver. It's going to be weird seeing Brandon Graham. It's going to be weird not seeing Brandon Graham run out of the tunnel for pregame starting lineups. I too wanted Earl Thomas, was pissed. He proved me wrong. I'll miss him. I think we're all enjoying that sandwich today. Harris only care about football owned? What's happening? DK Mr. Sandman, in 2010, I had a flip phone with prepaid minutes. Those are the days. Hello? Hold on. Using up all my minutes. Nino Brown, good morning, everyone. Sad to see Brandon Graham retire. Definitely an all-time player for us. Absolutely. The prepaid minutes is getting people. 2010, Roy Halladay came to Philadelphia. There we go. Wait, what's going on? Farzia, being respectful, laugh out loud. Okay, thank you. 2010 draft was loaded. At best, Graham was 20-something. Still love the off-field with BG, though. Yeah, there you go. Thanks, everybody in the chat. You guys are great, as per usual. No, I wasn't throwing shade. I was just trying to – hold on. Where are you, James? No, I just didn't know what you meant by Harris only care about football. You mean like Josh Harris only cares about the Washington Commanders? Sabrina White, what's going on? We're going to miss all the smack talk, certainly. Maybe I'll do a bit on this show. Aw, Danny, that's very nice. Your live stream makes my day. Oh, thank you so much, Danny. It's great to have you, man. Appreciate that. Sabrina White, fly, Eagles, fly. I want to do a bit with BG. The flip phone is unforgettable. Absolutely is. I want to do a bit with BG maybe when he has some, now that he's got some time. He did say he was having dinner with Jeffrey Lurie, though. He did say he was having dinner with Jeffrey Lurie, so maybe they're going to talk about some other responsibilities he could have with the team. I remember Hugh Douglas's first year not playing for the Eagles. They made him the ambassador. Just left my brain, the thought that I just had. Family Guy brain. James Jones says, Farzy, that's what I meant. Yeah, only care about the Commanders. Thank you. My apologies. I miss Scusi. There's something in here that... Oh, I want to do a bit with Brandon Graham, maybe leading up to next season, where I'll just drive him around Philadelphia in a car from Sky Motor Cars, and he can just smack talk random people working. That'd be good. That'd be a funny deal. I think that'd be funny. Yeah, I think that'd be funny. Ooh, bit idea. I like it. Thanks, everybody in the chat. You guys are great. As per usual, let's get to the morning rush brought to you by Sky Motor Cars, SkyMotorCars.com. So tonight, I mentioned I'm going to be on WBCB radio. So don't miss that. 6 to 7 o'clock with the great Bernie Parent at Chickies and Pete's in Northeast Philadelphia. Chickies and Pete's on the Boulevard, that is. So I look forward to going out for that. Also, I'll be back with you guys tonight on Locked On Sports Philadelphia's YouTube channel, where I'll be breaking it all down following the Sixers game against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Hopefully, Quentin Grimes drops another 46 points and the Sixers lose to keep pace. And that's what's going on tonight. The Flyers, as for, we're talking about the Flyers. Flyers will be back at it tomorrow night against the Capitals. Maybe Alexander Ovechkin to get another goal in that one, as he's on his way to breaking Wayne Gretzky's record, which again is something I never thought would happen. Absolutely unreal. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is the Farzy Show presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. Make sure you hit like and subscribe on the Farzy Show. Make sure you hit like and subscribe on the Jacob Media YouTube channel. Make sure you hit like and subscribe on Locked On Sports Philadelphia as well. For Brandon Graham, once more, thank you. Thank you for 15 years of being an incredible, impactful, influential, and two-time Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagle. 15 years of incredible memories with BG. Thanks, BG. Thanks, everybody who watched the show today. Thanks, everyone who liked and subscribed. I'll be back with you guys tonight on Locked On Sports Philadelphia and from 6 to 7 with Bernie Parent on WBCB Radio and YouTube. I'll share the link. See you guys then. Bye.